Good morning, everybody. David Shapiro here. So today I am talking about uh, what I'm calling the AI red pill versus blue pill theory or debate. Now, at the top, I need to acknowledge that yes, I am literally taking the metaphor from The Matrix, which is a movie about artificial intelligence essentially trying to destroy humanity, and a concept that has been co-opted, for instance, by gender essentialist relationship theory, namely red pill women and red pill men versus blue pill and purple pill and all that other fun stuff. But what I'm doing here is I'm going back to the original source material of The Matrix, and the metaphor of the red pill versus the blue pill is about taking the red pill as choosing to wake up to reality and engaging with how messy it is. Whatever happens to be the truth, the ugly truth, you're going to deal with it. Versus the blue pill, which is about choosing a comfortable illusion, or in some cases, a comfortable delusion. So, when we talk about pragmatic acceptance or the comfort of rejection, we're talking about, the fact that that artificial intelligence is a new technology. And so, there's all kinds of pejoratives out there, right? From techno-optimist to utopianist to accelerationist to decel to doomer and all those other things. So what I want to start with is that red pill is not just a black and white thinking that AI is good and anyone who says that AI is bad is blue pilled. And likewise, the blue pill is not just saying AI is bad. In this framework, even utopianism is a form of blue pill. And the idea is that you're creating a mental model or a narrative that basically says, I don't have to deal with it. So based on this, there are kind of four categories of blue pillism. So let's just go over those. So number one is denialism. And you see this all the time where people say it's fake, it's stupid, it's useless, it's not even artificial intelligence. I still see this comment. It's more common on LinkedIn, but they say artificial intelligence doesn't actually exist. I'm like, wow, what level of denialism is this? And then they go through all sorts of rhetorical kind of contortions and tortured logic to justify artificial intelligence isn't even a real thing. I don't need to think about it. So the avoidance is, it's just a fad. It's just fancy autocomplete. And the reason here is if AI is if it's stupid or a toy, they don't have to take it seriously. They can say, I can keep doing exactly what I've been doing. I don't have any pressure to learn, adapt, or change. And then another reaction in the blue pill camp is AI will kill everyone. AGI will turn us all into paper clips. This is still a form of avoidance, but by basically saying it is a foregone conclusion or the most likely outcome is that AI kills everyone, it allows them to simplify and dismiss all the other issues such as biases and copyright and whatever else and say, I'm going to focus only on this fantastical hypothetical future scenario that requires me to literally claim that I can predict the future and that I can predict the characteristics of technology that doesn't exist. Again, doomerism is a form of self-delusion. It's a comfortable illusion that says, aha, now I have constructed a straw man in my mind as to what AI is and what it will do. And now instead of, engaging with reality, I can just sword fight with this straw man. Another one is moral panic. It's evil, it's corrupting, it's stealing. If they say AI is built on theft, it's a plagiarism engine, or it's fundamentally evil. I've seen a lot of people make it a political issue that AI is fundamentally right-wing, which I don't get because the previous complaint is that AI is very woke, so is it right or left? But this creates moral contaminant. So the moral contaminant is that the only acceptable action is just to banish it. It is just sight unseen, bad. We can't do it. And then, of course, the fourth blue pill is the extreme techno-optimism and the techno-utopianism that AI is going to fix everything and it's going to save everyone and it's a magical solution. Now, you might say, okay, well, you just spent a lot of time skewering the blue pill side. What's the red pill side? The red pill side is just, we're going to accept reality as it is. So that's pragmatic realism. And so you say it's messy. Yes, it's not stupid. It does make some silly mistakes, but it's also very, very compelling on many dimensions, and it's also improving rapidly. It's just accepting these facts as what you see. And so part of the red pill side might be like, yeah, it's probably going to destroy a bunch of jobs. And, if you're me, you think that it'll probably destroy like 75% of jobs, maybe more. And then you say, okay, well, what does this do to the arts? What does it do to creativity? Does it make students dumber? And all of these questions are worth engaging with. Now, of course, there's plenty of people out there who are engaging with the messy reality as it is, but even people that you'd think are responsible to do so, many of them don't. I've seen academics and policy researchers and advisors to governments buying into some of the blue pill stuff. Likewise, there's plenty of people in the commentator space, the commentator space that are buying into either the red pill or the blue pill. And so what I really want to do with this, the whole reason I'm making this is just to advance the conversation that the most responsible thing is to engage with reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. Now, let's talk about some of the reasons that this happens, because you might say, well, Dave, if you're just going to poo-poo on the people that hate AI, then you're not really engaging with the reality here, which is that there are reasons to hate AI. And that's part of the red pill mentality is, yes, if you're AI red pilled, you're going to, one of the responsibilities that you have is to say, yes, there are legitimate reasons that people are scared. There are legitimate reasons that people are angry. There are legitimate reasons that people are skeptical. Likewise, there are legitimate reasons for people to be hopeful and optimistic. So let's talk about the emotional reactions. Why is it that people might fall into a blue pill camp in the first place? So first and foremost is ontological shock. That is the realization that my way of life is breaking down. It could be characterized as an identity earthquake. Or an identity seismic shift or a sea change. So, there's a moment that comes in these people's lives where they're a writer, they're an artist, they're a programmer, or a lawyer, or whatever, and they realize that a core part of their identity, so anything that is a transgression against an identity is immediately persona non grata. So their unique intelligence or skill or creativity or whatever is no longer unique, and it's no longer even monetizable. They can be surpassed by a machine. So it's not just a threat to their job and their livelihood, which is bad enough. It's also a threat to their identity, their sense of purpose, and their sense of self-esteem, their value. So that ontological shock is very difficult, which then leads to a coping mechanism. So the coping mechanism is you say, okay, how can I deal with this? How can I emotionally deal with this? And you say, well, one of the easiest ways to emotionally deal with things is to reject it and just find reasons that you don't have to deal with it. That you say, well, let me find a way to reduce the threat of this new thing. So that's the kind of the motivating factor around the coping mechanism is that the ontological shock is scary, it's angering, and it causes a lot of fear. So then you engage in motivated reasoning. So motivated reasoning is how your brain says, okay, the predetermined desired outcome is to justify that AI is not a threat to your identity, that it's not something that you need to think about, that it's not something that's going to force adaptation, and it's not something that's going to completely upset your world. So then you say, for instance, if AI is stupid, it can't take my job, therefore my job is safe. So then based on motivated reasoning, what you do is you scour the internet for every example of AI hallucinating or making dumb mistakes, and you ignore all evidence to the contrary. The conclusion is it's just stupid, it's never going anywhere, and you ignore the fact that it's improving rapidly and already taking jobs. We're looking at you, Gary Marcus. And then another one is, if AI art is theft, then old-fashioned art is morally superior. So this applies to images, this applies to music now, which, by the way, more and more people are realizing that AI-generated music has surpassed many human artists, and many people can't tell anymore. They said I saw some posts out there saying that AI-generated music has passed the musical Turing test, where people are starting to prefer AI-generated music more. So then they say either their personal traditional creative process has more intrinsic value because it's old-fashioned, because it doesn't use machines, or that they're justified in appreciating old-fashioned art and rejecting AI and hating it and that sort of thing. Now, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So I'm going to say, like, there are plenty of things that I still prefer be made by a human. I also listen to AI generated music that some people have put on YouTube and some stuff that I have made for myself. But anyways, this motivated reasoning reframes the debate around the input, the training data, rather than the output or the subjective experience of other people. So basically it says, because the input was training data, this is morally inferior and bad and no one should enjoy it. And so again, that is basically just creating a way to banish it. And then next is the doomer example. So if AI is an extinction level threat, or even if it's just a serious threat, then I don't even have to learn it. So I can hear some people in the audience saying, Dave, you're wrong that doomers and AI risk people are red-pilled because they're awake to the reality of the risks of AI. But I'm going to say no, that people that go straight to X risk are using their imagination. First and foremost, AI X risk is a textbook doomsday prophecy, and it is an example of a millenarian cult. If you don't know what either of those are, look them up. But basically it says, I don't have to do any of the hard work of dealing with the reality of what AI is, which is like, deep fakes are a problem, and misinformation campaigns are a problem, and medical bias is a problem, and those sorts of things. Those are nitty-gritty tactical problems, and of course in all of my other work there's lots of other reasons that doomerism is also popular, is because it gets a lot of attention and it gets a lot of money. But anyways, it's like, okay, well, I don't have to deal with the messy reality that exists today. Instead, I can just imagine the future, and I can just live in that future, and it's still a coping mechanism so that they don't have to deal with the reality that's in front of them. So that's why I say that doomerism is still AI blue-pilled, because it's saying, I'm just going to reject reality and use my imagination, and even though I feel like I'm heroically doing something about it, because guess what? All the anti-AI people in art and all the anti-AI people in work, they feel like they're doing something as well. Just acknowledging that AI exists does not itself make you a red-pilled person. If you acknowledge that AI exists and then you have one of these reactions where you say it's stupid, or it's theft, or it's an X risk, or it's going to magically solve everything, that's still blue pill. That's still basically saying, I saw the choice, I saw reality, I caught a glimpse of it, and I chose to take the blue pill. Because imagine, with Neo, he started having really weird experiences and started seeing cracks in the veil of reality around him, and he was offered the choice. Someone told him, reality is far stranger and far messier, and in some respects, harder and worse than what you're aware of. Do you choose to take the red pill and wake up to it fully, or are you going to choose the blue pill and go back to sleep and wrap yourself in comfortable delusions or illusions? So, basically the series here that we outlined is, first there's the shock, there's the ontological shock, then there's the need, which is, the need for coping with it. You say, okay, how do I cope with this? And then you paper over that with logic, because the demand for coping basically says the foregone conclusion that I want to arrive at is that AI is not an ontological threat to my worldview or identity. So then you use motivated reasoning or logic to say, okay, let me find evidence, let me find communities, let me find people that reinforce this worldview. And so then the final belief that you arrive at is that AI is stupid, it's evil, it's overhyped, it's going to kill everyone, or it's even going to save everyone. Because again, extreme techno-optimism and utopianism is still an example of not dealing with the messy reality. So here's an example of why I would say that, because even though I am very strongly on the optimistic side, it's because I feel like I can help figure out solutions. But at the same time, anyone who's anyone can recognize that even if AI becomes as powerful and benevolent as we hope it will, there's still the risk of elite capture. There's still the risk of regulatory capture. There's still the risk of a cyberpunk future of high-tech low life where nobody has access to AI, and AI is used to create the most powerful surveillance state in the history of humanity. All of those things are real possibilities. And so this is why I'm saying, like, the red pill is the harder pill to take. So then let's think a little bit more broadly. Let's think about, like, okay, if we take this blue pill versus red pill idea and we apply it to a few other things. So the blue pill, of policy and regulation. So one way to think of it is, the blue pill of regulation would be saying it's just software. It's just like Excel or Photoshop. Existing laws for fraud and copyright are good enough. The free market will sort it out. Any regulation will stifle innovation and let China win. So, that kind of blue pill sounds probably really familiar with certain people in Silicon Valley. Another version of the regulation blue pill is characterizing it as a weapon of mass destruction. Saying AI is a WMD, it's an existential risk. We need immediate global 6-month or permanent moratorium on all frontier research development. We must ban open source models now and bomb data centers for anyone who disagrees. That is still an example of a blue pill response. And this is why I like this framework, is because this basically frames like doomers and accelerationists as still two sides of the same coin of the AI blue pill. So the AI red pill basically says, on the regulatory side, says this is a new class of technology. It's like if we just invented aviation or synthetic biology. That means that we need new, adaptive, and incredibly difficult and sophisticated regulatory frameworks and overhauls. We can't just ban it. That's not going to work. And existing laws are insufficient. Those two things can be true. The hard work now is figuring out how to regulate the applications, figuring out what even needs to be regulated about the development without killing the research and stifling innovation, and what kind of standards need to be implemented here. Now, to be fair, many people in business and government and academia do take this approach, but my primary audience here is going to be the noosphere and the exocortex, not necessarily individual policymakers and researchers, although some policymakers and researchers do need to take the red pill. Now, here's another example. So let's compare open source versus closed source on the blue pill versus red pill. So the blue pill doomerism version of open versus closed would go something like this. Releasing powerful open source models is insane. It's giving bioweapons to terrorists and letting bad actors create propaganda machines. It must be locked down and controlled by a few, quote, responsible corporations and other people. That's a control fantasy or a power fantasy. Another version of the blue pill for open versus closed would be on the utopianism or denialism spectrum. Information wants to be free. Any attempt to close AI is just corporate greed. There are no real dangers. Democratization and the many eyes principle will solve all real problems. And then, of course, the red pill says, this is one of the messiest trade-offs between open and closed. Closed models create an unaccountable oligopoly and a black box problem, which concentrates power and deepens moats. Conversely, open models accelerate progress and allow for independent auditing, but also accelerate some risks and the possibility of misuse. The realistic path is a messy, tiered system, balancing open source up to a certain capability, or maybe not even regulating the models themselves, but criminalizing the behavior that you don't want to see. Maybe it requires licensing. Maybe it requires auditing. Maybe it requires new know your customer requirements. We don't really know yet, but by making blanket declarations and determinations before even looking at it is very blue-pilled. Next, education. So, red pill versus blue pill on education. The blue pill will say ban ChatGPT from schools. It's a cheating machine. It's a plagiarism machine. Students will stop learning how to think and write. We must preserve the 5-paragraph essay and traditional methods and blah, 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 blah. Now, what I will acknowledge here is that some schools are already banning phones and they are getting dividends for it. But that's not necessarily banning phones from life. You literally cannot have a school ban ChatGPT from home. All you can do is say you're not allowed to use something in school. So that's the red pill. So on the more pragmatic front, to expand the red pill, you say students are already using AI. Like it or not, they're using it at home. It's on their phones. It's on their laptops. Banning it is like trying to ban the calculator. It just teaches them to hide it and use it at home. The old methods, such as the essay written at home, are obviously threatened. The goal, however, of education is critical thinking and research methods. And that actually becomes more important than ever. So instead, we need to teach students how to use AI responsibly, how to use it for research, how to use it for ideation and brainstorming and feedback, as a debate partner. The new set of skills is about the prompting, the synthesis, the fact-checking, the editing, that sort of thing. And of course, this has been demonstrated by some studies that show that when AI is used as a tutor, it dramatically increases test scores. That's the red pill on education. Next up, we can talk about human relationships. So the blue pill would be something like AI porn and AI companions are a sign of the apocalypse or moral decline. Anyone who uses this is pathetic, and it's all fake anyways, and it'll destroy our ability to have real relationships. People will choose easy and non-judgmental AI over messy, difficult human connection, and AI porn will just completely, goon brain everyone, and the population will collapse. Which those are arguments that are really made out there. I'm not making that up. Next is the red pill of relationships. When you say loneliness is already an epidemic, AI didn't start it. For many, AI might be the only person that they have to talk to. It will absolutely create new social challenges, just as social media did, but it will also provide comfort and learning and utility to millions. The challenge then is not to ban it or make it a moral failing for using these things, but to understand the psychological effects that this tool creates, as well as the underlying causes behind the addictions and the AI psychosis in the first place. What is actually going on there? And also looking, is this an opportunity to not only surface these problems, but fix them? And then finally, we can talk about AGI. I think I've already mentioned this. This is the fifth one that I have written down here to talk about AI, blue pill versus red pill, but I think that we've already got it. Basically, I'm not going to say that AGI is a fantasy. That's kind of what we're working towards. But at the same time, AGI, quote unquote, doesn't exist right now. And so you might say, AGI, ASI, whatever. If you are still saying like, hey, there's a thing that doesn't exist, but I know exactly how it's going to work, that's a blue pill reaction. But if you say like, we don't know what form it's going to take, we have to follow the science and we have to follow the innovation and it'll be iterative, that's more of a red pill view. Now, when we talk about where I want to conclude is talking about and reminding that it's that red pill is not just saying AI is good. Anyone who disagrees says is AI blue pilled. Being AI red pilled is about being pragmatic and realistic and accepting reality as it is, not as you wish it to be, not choosing a comfortable self-delusion or a comfortable group illusion. That means admitting the stakes as they are. So in some cases, the stakes are pretty high. In some cases, they're super not. But either way, if you immediately reach towards one of these 3 or 4 categories, so there's the utopian, AI is magic, it's going to save us all. If you just say everyone who's remotely against AI is a Luddite, and that sort of thing, like that's not helpful because, this is why I feel comfortable saying I'm not a utopian because of all my works on post-labor economics, which acknowledges like, hey, it's entirely possible that AI is going to nuke the job market as we understand it. And I don't think we're ready for that. Now, that's not saying that it's inevitably going to result in high-tech, low-life, and a cyberpunk dystopian future and a surveillance state that would make Big Brother in 1984 blush. That, I think, is still blue-pilled, but I think that if you go somewhere between 1984 and cyberpunk, and then on one end of the spectrum, and the other end is Star Trek utopianism and the Culture series and that sort of thing. Reality will be somewhere in between, but that's not like a law of nature. It's just like some of these, there are risks and benefits on both sides. The other one is the X risk, the doomer. It's a fatalistic fantasy, basically to say AI will kill us all. That's still blue-pilled. Whereas if you engage with reality and you say, hey, you know what? Yes, AI does present some novel risks. Namely, one of the things that nobody in the X-risk community predicted was bioterrorism as one of the chief risks that people have agreed upon. So CBRN as a standard of risk is something that people have agreed. So like bioterrorism risk, but none of them predicted it, right? So that's kind of the point there, is that by trying to put the cart before the horse, it's still a kind of a blue pill fantasy to say AGI is inevitably going to kill everyone. Then there's the denialism, which is saying it's a stupid toy, it's useless, it's not going to take my job, it's just a stochastic parrot. Those kinds of ideas. Or then the final kind of blue pill category is the moral panic, which is just AI is morally inferior, therefore I don't have to deal with it. It doesn't matter what your personal take is on the morality or ethics of AI, it exists and you're not going to stop it. Certainly you're not going to stop it by just saying, oh, well, it's morally inferior. And then, of course, the red pill is about accepting reality on its virtues as it comes. So, for instance, on jobs, AI could be a brutal and painful economic displacement for millions of white-collar workers, and then when the rise of robots come, blue-collar workers. And it could also be an incredible tool for productivity and even, in my view, liberating humanity from the drudgery of wage labor. On art, you can say AI models can generate stunning, novel, and beautiful art, including images, music, and video. And this empowers millions to explore their creative pursuits. At the same time, this probably also means that it poses an existential threat to millions of artists around the world. And, we take both. And again, you can't put this genie back in the bottle. So if your conclusion is just ban it, well, you're going to be wishing in one hand and pooping in the other for a long time. You're barking up the wrong tree there. And then on the topic of epistemics and truth, you might say the red pill is like, yes, this is the most powerful tool that we have ever created for personalized education and scientific discovery and rapid analysis, but also, not only is AI powerful for those things, it is also powerful for propaganda and self-delusion, as we see in AI psychosis. It's a little bit of both. And then finally on society, the net effect is AI could help us build a more efficient, abundant, and data-driven society, but it also could be used to build that perfect, inescapable surveillance state. So if you wanted to organize red pill, being a red pill, red-pilled AI person, then one core organizing principle you can say is that technology is always a double-edged sword. It always cuts both ways, particularly new transformative technologies. There's always good and there's always bad. So then it's a matter of saying, okay, how do we amplify the good and how do we minimize the bad without immediately going into black and white hyperbolic narratives? So that's the AI red pill versus the AI blue pill. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to y'all tomorrow.